Morning.
Roxana.
We will get started. Today is Monday, February the 3rd. This is the Cosmetology and Barber Examiners Board meeting. Proper notice was given to the public regarding this meeting, and it was posted to the website on January 29th. This is the Complaint Committee, and therefore I will turn this over to Pamela Spicer.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Have the legal report. We do not have any represents on this legal report. However, just a heads up, the April meeting will likely have several represents. I do want to also point out on the legal report that during the full board meeting, we'll be discussing the agreed citation schedule. That may have an effect on some of these recommendations. The recommendations for people with expired license, we have always done a $100 civil penalty for those. However, from a litigation perspective, it can sometimes be difficult to litigate those cases if the persons or the shop have renewed by the time the complaint gets to legal. I'm not saying not open a complaint for an expired license when the inspectors go out and find an expired license. But we need to, in the full board meeting, consider what we might do with those complaints when they get to legal and the person or shop has already renewed. Depending on what we decide in the full board meeting, I have those numbered complaints flagged for me once you all make a determination in the full board meeting. And I can point those out to you as we go along.
Roxana, for the record, I need to note that we have appointed Ms. Patty to this complaint committee.
Thank you. That works out perfect. We will have for the full meeting as well to meet quorum. We'll have someone, at least one or two members participating telephonically. And Ms. Russell, that's normally on the committee, would be calling in, but she's driving, so she knew that would be a hit or miss depending on where they're at. So I appreciate that and thank you.
Do we get to vote on Patty?
I don't know, kick me out.
We're just glad she made it early.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So based on that, I'll take any questions first that y'all have about any of the complaints.
You know, looking through this whole report, seems like we had several of the same types of complaints, and that's pretty standard, but there's a few that stood out to me, namely the ones that involved students who've been caught working as students working in barber shops. I believe the recommendation on those was $1,000 fines. I certainly would agree with that. But that seems like from what I'm hearing, that's getting to be more of a thing that's going on. There seems to be quite a bit of that happening. I'm a little concerned whether it's the shops who are enticing the students or the students who are just going out and looking. I couldn't discern in the report if there was a violation against that shop as well for having unlicensed personnel in there. Do you know?
Can you give me one of the numbers?
It was towards the end.
Case number 62 or 61 and 62 were two of them.
See if I can. On number 60, let me go back to 60. Number 64 is the shop.
Okay. They also had no manager there.
So in general, yes, the shop absolutely should be cited. And if they've responded or had something else, it could be that they don't make it on the same report as what
Sure.
you mentioned. That could be, but we try to keep them on the same. But there would be a violation always to the shop.
That looks like a $3,500 civil penalty on that. Okay. What I'm thinking is, for those 3 students, to kind of get a better idea, a better grasp of why they're allowing this to happen. It may be that the school has not properly taught them the rules and regulations, but it may be that they're just taking it on themselves. I would like to request that we have those 3 students appear before the next board meeting, if that's appropriate.
And let me say this, I don't know that all 3 were students. But I agree, if the board is so inclined to have them appear, I just want to make sure that they were students, whoever the students are.
On 62, it's a Barber student, and I believe 61 is also a Barber student. The third one, I lost the number, but
60's also related, but I don't know that that individual is a student.
okay.
If I determine, or we can check during the break, if it is a student, basically what I hear you saying is you would like to have all 3 appear. Do you want to leave the recommendation as is and have them appear in April?
That will be my.
And in the past, I think what we've done a couple of times that we've had this is when the student, and as long as the name is an easy catch, because obviously when we cite them, we won't always have the social security number. If we do, that takes care of it. But if we don't, when the student comes through and we can recognize the name, similar to anyone that's revoked, we have asked the students, if you recall, to come in person. We make sure that the penalty's paid.
Exactly.
It's not that you all have ever denied the license. It's
Right.
just to get them to understand the reason why.
Seriousness of
The
it.
seriousness, yes.
Okay.
So that would be number 60, 61, 62, if, confirm their students and ask them to appear at the April board meeting, but leave the recommendation as is.
Yes.
For now, if they appear and something changes, we'll deal with it then.
Yes.
Okay. I'll talk a minute about the $100 civil penalties. As you review the report, I just want to let you know there are 13 on this report, not number 13. There are 13 complaints involving an expired license that has been renewed by the time that it gets to legal and I review the notice of violation or the complaint, however it comes in.
We get those several,
Yes.
there's always quite a few of those.
Yes.
I didn't have any comments on the report. I thought it was very well done, and I appreciate all of the detail, and I specifically appreciated where there were comments linking complaints together. That was very helpful as I was going through things. I also want to thank the inspectors for their diligence and all of the detail that they've provided, and I loved the addition of pictures and/or video that was included in our report. So no, I thought this report was very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I also wanted to make a public note that on this report, as with many others that we've received, there's always quite a few complaints from the public regarding possible infections they received in a shop or bad services. And I know that that is outside of the jurisdiction of what we do, but I just want to make a note that as we're going through these reports, we are seeing quite a few of those instances. And while the public is aware that, buyer beware of what you're getting into, that these are something that come before us every time we meet.
And I don't have anything else if there's,
I did have maybe 1 or 2 more quick ones here. On 67, again, this one seems to be dealing with the school. It's a student complaint, but they're alleging some serious improprieties here. Receiving their hours dishonestly, hours being sold or given improperly. I know that when the inspectors go out, they can review all of the files. Maybe on this, it's the same thing I would expect on my school, and I would certainly put myself out there too. Maybe we need to have an inspector drop in and check their hours recordings on those things. They're supposed to have a backup as well as their daily systems.
And if you note in the summary, there was a follow-up inspection, but I'm happy to have, if the board's so inclined, them go out
Oh, I see that.
again.
Sorry.
If there's specific things
Do
that
we
you
know if he
would like
checked the
them to look
records that
at.
day, or did he just come in?
I don't know without probably talking to the inspector or going back and looking. Obviously, there wasn't a notice of violation issued, so I can't speak directly to what they looked at, but there was no violation found. So probably at this point, the recommendation would be either closure, or if you would like to send them back out again with a specific instruction to look at hours or.
I think if you check with the inspector, if they check the hours, then that would be sufficient. But if he did not, my recommendation would be to have him go back and take a look.
Okay, so I'll change the recommendation on 67. I'll say closure with follow-up with the inspector to determine if the inspector checked the hours, and if not, to go back out as another inspection and check the hours. Okay.
On case number 40, second. I'm just double checking that individual's incarcerated now, or?
The information that I have from the TBI indicates that the person is incarcerated, but this came in as an anonymous consumer complaint, so I need more information. That's why I recommended that we put it in litigation monitoring, because
Okay.
there's really not anything I can do right now based on the information that I have. But we have requested information from Knox County. When I get that information, I will get with Roxana and we will look at it and take any necessary steps we need to take.
I think I found the third student case that I was looking at, number 21. It seems pretty explanatory. However, I think that recommendation to appear would probably apply there as well. Since that student refused to sign the notice.
I've added that to the list. I do also want to say that Hugh Cross actually drafted the report for this meeting. So I want to thank him for doing that, given
Excellent work.
that I've taken on some other responsibilities. I asked him if he would be so kind to review the complaints, draft the report for me. So that was great.
Very clear.
And Pam has taken on a lot of added responsibilities. Hugh's doing amazing. I tell him all the time, so he's doing great, and Pam's taken on a lot, so, yeah, we're very lucky.
I think that's all that I had.
So before we wrap up, a couple of things. I went ahead and emailed the entire board the agreed citation process that we had discussed at the December meeting, talking about and looking at. Not necessarily that we have to make a change, but this would be, we haven't touched it since February 2015. I think that was brought on by some of the complaints in the shops that move, that do the change in location. So unfortunately, at the meeting, we will not have Mr. Gambusa join us. He had to travel. We have Ms. Ross, who's sick, and then Judy McAllister. So we're going to have not all of us present. I don't know if it'll be worth putting it off, or we still want to discuss it. So that's the agreed citation process, and it is scanned under your presentation toward the end if we want to discuss it and look at it. And then the separate piece that Pam mentioned that may be worth us talking about for about 5-10 minutes, whatever we've got before the full meeting, would be that $100 violation. So Pam and I have discussed this for a couple years now. And these are tricky cases. They're the cases with the shop or the individual working on an expired license. It's the $100 penalty as long as it's that first time. And it's in our agreed citation. It's worked really smoothly. And I would say that the vast majority understand and it's paid. But when the person renews, not immediately, a couple of weeks, sometimes a month or two later, and the case is kind of moved over to legal, it's away from the agreed citation process that we can handle internally, then legal has to present it, and it's still the $100 violation. And the individuals, generally speaking, don't understand because they've renewed. So they either ignore it or don't understand. And Pam and I have had the privilege of going in front of an administrative law judge on a $100 violation, and it's difficult. So my point has been, at some point, yes, but they were working unlicensed, and it's the principle thing. But at this point, even how we're getting administrative law judges to our cases has changed. So we have fewer and less time. And so the debate is, what do we do with those cases? And how far do we pursue it for the $100? And that's kind of what you're addressing. So Pam did an awesome job highlighting the 13 that are on your report now. And we've always had them, and we stick to the $100. But then we get to that piece where it's going before a judge. And so this time we would like it discussed. Is it worth, once it comes to the board, if they've renewed, those are the ones that at that point we go with a letter of warning.
So many thoughts.
I know.
I mean, I understand the position that you're in. I hate to let everyone know that they can be working on an expired license without any repercussion until they get caught. Because I guess I can speak from my experience. I employ quite a few licensed folks, and many of them need to be nudged to renew. And we're constantly looking at it. It is still in the paperwork, correct? And if it happens again, then there could be additional repercussions. But you're saying for the instances where you are caught with a license that is expired.
Or your first offense.
First offense.
Correct.
And you renew.
Right.
Right away? What does that timeline look like?
Well, and right away, if they renew while the inspector is there, we don't do anything. It's considered, this is your educational piece. But if by the time the complaint division folks get that inspection from the field inspector and there's a violation, the shop is cited for letting someone work unlicensed. If the manager is a different licensee, they are cited for allowing, because they're the licensee that are responsible, and the statute gives us both of those pieces. And then the individual is cited for working on unlicensed. By the time it gets to Pam and legal, it's 3 weeks, maybe even 2 weeks at least?
It could be up to a month. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's a month. But I'm probably running, so Sam's still, I'm probably running a couple of months behind. So it may already be, the complaint itself may be up to 30 days old by the time it gets to me. And then, hold on just a second, I'll tell you. Because like Roxana was saying, they have an option to pay it. It's still the $100 civil penalty by agreed citation they can renew while the inspector's there. So I may be running 2 months behind by the time I've looked at the complaint. Then, depending on when the board meeting is, and the next one's in April. The concern is, like Roxana was saying, they pay a late fee when they renew. But then it comes to legal, I make the recommendation, it goes out in the form of a consent order. They then might call me and say, but I've already renewed and I paid the late fee, and then I have to explain, well, this is a separate civil penalty for being expired at the time of inspection. Obviously, they normally sometimes have what I consider would be a valid reason for not going forward with litigation. Sometimes they will say, I was in the hospital, had a death in the family. I don't know. I'm just giving examples and wouldn't point to any one specific complaint. The additional problem is, like Roxana was saying, if they're renewed by the time I get to a hearing, which means they've already renewed by the time it's presented to you, it's difficult for the ALJ the administrative law judge, to issue the penalty. And then we also have the filing fee on top of that. So I don't know. I know it is not, I'm not saying change the schedule. All I'm saying is to consider on a first offense on the legal report, depending on maybe when they renewed. I know you brought that question up, to give legal the discretion to recommend a letter of warning. Not change the schedule, just the option or discretion to recommend a letter of warning. It's still going to come before you all. So it could be that you want me or whoever in the future may be doing the legal report to put on there when they renewed. And then you can decide. I can put the recommendation as a letter of warning if they've renewed. Then when it gets to you all, if we have on there when they renewed, because we would know that, you all can make a decision if you want to change it to a $100 civil penalty. It's several cases, and it's not half, but 13 is a lot of cases. Then I probably have almost 20 already in litigation. I have to pick between, do I pursue the unlicensed activity cases, the expired license cases? Obviously, the unlicensed activity cases are going to come first as far as the ones that we present to administrative law judge. Those $100 cases, when they've renewed, it just makes the process more difficult in litigation. Not letting them off the hook, but just asking for some discretion in legal. And maybe it's based on the time frame.
Here's a thought. Now, on the barber side, if a barber renews late, and I don't mean once he's been inspected, but if he just renews late, there's already a penalty built into that.
It still doubles for
It
the
still
barber,
doubles.
unfortunately. The
Yeah.
cosmetology is $25 for the individuals, yes.
How much is the barber?
It doubles, so it'd be $120, so $60 penalty, because everybody's license now is $60 for the individuals. Yeah.
So they are already paying a late fee. And that is something to consider, I think. They're renewing, whatever reason. Sometimes I think it's a valid reason that the ALJ would likely say, I'm not going to issue a civil penalty. They've renewed. They've come before me and said X, Y, and Z, which is why they didn't renew, and they've paid the late fee. But again, this is just a recommendation that would be on the legal report, and then you could still look at them as they're coming through on the letter of warning.
I agree with you. I don't want to change the fee schedule, but yes, I understand that, you going through all of, for $100 doesn't make a lot of sense. So I would feel comfortable with you making that discretion when you review the case if that licensee has renewed by then and there's not much to pursue, that we would move forward with a letter of warning at your discretion. But I do not think it's wise if we just sort of make it well known that these penalties are going away.
And that's why we've been here a couple of years. Our conversation goes back and forth before bringing it to you all. But now with an added change on how many cases we're going to be able to present, how often, Pam has a good point. And then just for you to know, then the history of that individual and that shop means they've expired and done, been working on expired license already once. The second penalty, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's $250. I mean, it's already more. That's a whole other thing. I think that needs to just be left alone because you've already gone through this one time.
And that's still reflected on their
Correct.
complaint report and everything.
Correct.
And I will speak personally, I feel like I have quite a few folks who aren't familiar with the online process and how easy that is or how to access that. And I do understand the inspectors are doing quite a bit of education, and I am always very thankful when folks renew when the inspector shows up and they learn how to do that. I think that's a really good use of the inspector's time and good for everyone to understand how to do it.
Online makes it so much convenient. I mean, there really isn't a whole lot of reason for them to be late unless it's something personal or anything.
I know from my experience, and probably yours too, I have so many employees who move all the time that I'm boggled by. I hate to move, so it's hard for me to watch someone move every 3 months. But that is just sort of the nature of the beast sometimes, and so I understand that folks are missing the notifications in the mail or how to do that, but I do think that renewing timely is important.
Amy, I know we're talking about some kind of a time frame here on whether maybe you need to pursue it or not. What do you think about that time frame should be? Is that?
I mean, I think if Ms. Spicer's saying by the time she gets to the case and they've already renewed, that there's not much more to move forward with, that at that point, whatever that timeline is for you, it is what it is.
And what we can do in legal is put the time frame in the summary. As far as when they renewed, then you would know how long. I can put, if it was an inspection, obviously you'd have we could put in the date of the inspection, when the notice of violation was issued, and then when they renewed. And you can look at those on the legal report. So if you wanted to change something from a letter of warning, you could. You don't necessarily have to make a decision today, I don't think, about a specific time frame.
I think as we see that detail, we'll understand
Right.
where we're at. Absolutely.
And I was going to point out, as Roxana pointed out, on your agreed citation list, it's in category 3 where it discusses the expired license. So first offense is $100, second offense is significant, it's $500. And you can see on the report, most of these do not have any disciplinary history.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a first offense.
And that's the only way they would get the $100 is with no other discipline. So I think we worked really hard on that agreed citation to be able to move it if there's no other concerns with other discipline.
Always, I know, we just want to make sure we're trying to be consistent across the board. We don't want to treat one group different than the other. So I think you guys do a great job at that.
So let me ask, on the ones that are on, and I know we'll discuss this in the full board meeting. So the ones that I have flagged, let me let you know what numbers those are now. So that would be number 17, number 19, number 25, number 31, number 32, number 33, number 35, number 42, number 50, number 56, number 71, and number 73.
These are all cases where the license was expired, but since that time, the license has been renewed.
Yes,
So our recommendation would be then to close these with a letter of warning.
yes.
I think that would be fine. Oh, yeah, I just happened to be open on 73, and this has been licensed since 1994. This is 2020, and they've never had an issue at all. So, I mean, that's a perfect example of someone who may have just not noticed a date, which doesn't excuse the unlicensed activity.
I would just make sure, especially that's 73, correct?
That was 73.
That's a
Just- I
shop,
happened to
that's a
be there.
shop. It does not say that the license has been renewed on that particular.
In the summary, it doesn't, but the license expiration date is 2020.
Okay, so they have updated it.
Yes.
Then yeah, I'm comfortable with closing those with a letter of warning. And the record is there, and then should it ever happen again, we're in a different place.
I agree.
I don't have anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I did a great job on your legal report. It's the more clear it is for us, the easier it is for us to work with. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will adjourn then until 10 o'clock. Thank you.
I have not. I'm Ronnie Gillen. Very nice. Thanks for taking time to come down and see us.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
I'm Amy. Excellent.
Hey,
Nice to meet you. Good morning.
John Spear.
I'd like to thank you very much for, they do a good job. They're amazing. Well, thank you so much. We could do what we do.
Well, I wouldn't I've been here since May, and I've found it to be an invigorating experience and with a lot of support. And we have a great staff, but I wanted to visit.
They got their hands full.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Well, that makes
Susan.
everything
Thank you.
interesting.
Yes, go ahead.
Appreciate your work
Just making sure.
and the work y'all do for the state and for as to be expected.
It is.
We're glad to be available whenever you need us. And
Absolutely.
I just went to the same one that I went to last
You and
time.
Anita will be the
Looking
only
down the
two on
road.
this side today. if
This
that's
is
okay
good.
with you.
anything of that nature.
Good.
Like we're doing today, they've
Thank you.
the more they,
Thank you so
cleaner
much.
it is.
Yes.
I've actually got a badge will go in all of theirs. Go ahead and. Perfect. So eventually.
Yeah, I did.
Well, we've got others. Kelly's almost here.
Looking. Figure out what.
Good morning. Who has joined us?
This is Ms. Ross. Sorry,
I'm sorry, who joined us?
this is Ms. Ross.
I don't know.
ROSS.
Ms. Ross?
Ms. Ross, ROSS.
Thank you for joining us, Ms. Ross. Oh, bless you. I can barely hear your voice, but thank you, because we're going to be struggling for quorum, so I appreciate you being there. You're welcome to put us on mute. We'll get started here in the next 10 minutes or so, 5 minutes.
happening, hot stuff? How are you?
Thank you.
Do I need to call back or what?
No, you stay on the phone. You stay on the phone. You'll just have to have us on mute.
Trying to wear less
Okay.
black.
I will be
Trying to wear
here. I
less
don't
black.
sound good,
Try.
but I will be here. Okay. Hi, Roxana.
Last week it was the
Are
uniform.
you there, Mona?
Black, black,
Yes,
black,
I
though.
am.
Thank you. I've got Ms. Ross there, but I think if I'm understanding it correctly, her voice is not there, so she may not be able to stay with us. So, but I appreciate you being there, Ms. Ross, for at least a minute till we make sure that we've got quorum, if that's okay.
I will be here. It's just my voice doesn't sound good. I will
Well,
be here.
thank you. I just hung up my connection, so I think I can hear you both better for right now.
Yes, yes.
Thank you both so much, and you can put us on mute because we won't have quorum in person. We will have to read a statement of necessity, and then all of our motions will have to be roll call. So I so appreciate you being there.
Thank you.
I can get
Good morning.
Hey.
Hello, Anita. Ms. Barger is on her way, so that'll give us 7 in person. 8 we have quorum, yay. We've got someone that we can hear. If you could put us on mute, that would be wonderful. And hopefully here in a few minutes, we'll get started. Did someone else just join us?
I'm here, Miss Ross.
Perfect, Ms. Ross. I've got Mona and Ms. Ross on the phone, and we'll wait a couple more minutes for Ms. Kelly Barger
Okay.
and then get started.
Okay.
7.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to welcome everyone. Today is Monday, February the 3rd, and this is the Cosmetology and Barber Examiners Board meeting. We are back on. We took a quick break between our legal committee meeting and the full board. We have with us 6 board members in person, and we've got 2 members participating electronically. So Chairman Gilham, I'll turn it over to you for a minute, and then we'll continue.
As you said, this meeting is called to order. We would probably need to have a statement of necessity read.
To hold this. Can you hear me? Okay. Statement of necessity. According to TCA Section 844-108B2, if a physical quorum is not present at the location of a meeting of a governing body, the governing body must file such determination of necessity, including the resuscitation of the facts and circumstances on which it is based, with the Office of Secretary of State no later than 2 working days after the meeting. Furthermore, TCA Section 844-108A3 defines necessity as matters to be considered by the governing body at that meeting require timely action by the body, that physical presence by a quorum of the members is not practical within the period of time requiring action, and the participation by a quorum of the members by electronic or other means of communication is necessary. This is the regularly scheduled meeting for the Board of Cosmetology and Barber Examiners, and the purpose of today's meeting with some of the members attending by teleconference is to discuss the agenda as noticed on the website earlier. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. It's our custom here to always begin by recognizing our guests right after we have a roll call.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly Barger, and I do believe she will join us momentarily. Ms. Anita Charlton.
Present.
Mr. Frank Gambusa is not here with us today. Mr. Ron Gillihan.
Here.
Ms. Wybette Granger.
Present.
Ms. Judy McAllister is also not able to join us. Ms. Patricia Parsons.
Present.
Ms. Janie Ross.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Becky Russell. Becky is unable to join us. Ms. Mona Sappenfield.
I'm here.
Thank you. Ms. Amy Tanksley.
Present.
And Ms. Susan Witcher.
Present.
Thank you. With our 2 members participating telephonically, we have quorum.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to take just a moment to recognize some of our guests here. I believe we have our General Counsel for the department, Mr. Spears. Thank you for coming and joining us. We appreciate all you folks do for us. Thank you. Also, we'd like to recognize any schools that happen to be in attendance. It's somebody from each school. Stand to be recognized. Tell us who you're with, and we appreciate you being here.
Chip Wood.
Hey, Chip. The young man in the, I guess, lavender pink hair, that'd be, thanks for being here, Corey. Okay. All righty. At this point, we'll move on to the approval of the December 2019 meeting minutes. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the December 2019 minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 We will need to do.
We're doing the roll call on all these.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes,
So we'll have
all
a
of our
roll call.
motions. Thank you. So for the first motion, we have a motion by Ms. Patricia Parsons, a second by Ms. Amy Tansley, and I will do roll call for each of the motions going forward as well. Ms. Kelly Barger is not here. Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Yes.
Ms. Wybeth Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Jamie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley?
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Witcher?
Yes.
All in agreement. Thank you.
Very well. The next item on our agenda today is for legislative updates.
See if I can get a little closer to this thing. Oh, it's okay. Okay, so I have a couple of things on the legislative update. First thing I want to go through, if it's okay with the board, is the rules. You may recall there's two sets of rules for this board. There's the ProCost 2019 proposed rules, and then the rulemaking hearing Cosmotology 2018 rules. The ProCost 2019 rules is the one that was proposed to change the current rule, by removing the requirement that an apprentice supervisor be both a licensed barber and a licensed barber instructor. Unfortunately, we've had to withdraw those rules due to a statutory conflict. If you look in the statute TCA 623123F, there's actually the word "and" in there. So the issue with that is that per statute, the board has the authorization to create an apprenticeship. However, the statute requires the apprenticeship be done under someone who is licensed under 623110, which is the Master Barber Certificate, and 623124, which is the Barber Instructor Certificate. And as a result, the proposed rule is inconsistent with the statute. Unfortunately. Is there any questions on that? No. Okay.
So you're saying that because that's inconsistent with the statute, that the entire article is removed?
The proposed rule.
The proposed rule, okay. Okay.
Other questions?
And you don't have these on your iPads or have been sent. These are the rules that we worked on quite a bit ago. And so as we followed up and updated, that's the reason for Hugh's update, just to keep us in the loop. And this particular one will need to be pulled.
So what does that mean for our licensees?
We'll just have to stick with the current rule as it is, so there will be no change in that regard.
So it would still require the licensed personnel and the amount of time proper to that trainee or trainor.
Well, as I understand it, they'll, hang on one second, I'm trying to get clarification. Okay. Okay. So basically, what the proposed rule was trying to do was, in the rule, it reads, when it's talking about the supervising licensed professional who's responsible for the apprentice, shall hold a certificate of registration as both a master barber and barber instructor issued by the board. The proposed rule was attempting to take the word both out and barber instructor out of the proposed rule. However, the statute has the word and. So the statute requires both a master barber and a licensed instructor.
The effect of that would be that the trainer in the shop, the supervising barber, would under the language would also be required to be a licensed instructor as well. I don't think that was the intent of what we had.
Correct. And that was definitely not the intent of the law, probably. What didn't go that way in cosmetology, hence the reason that we worked on taking that word out, but we can't. So I will work very closely with legal. Most of the barber schools have not added the apprenticeship. We don't believe that because the law didn't want to be limiting. The law had every intent in carrying it out. The professionals do have 10 years, so we'll address how to do that because, again, we want to follow what the intent was, but the law as well. So we're definitely going to keep working on that.
Thank you.
Any more questions? The second set of rules is the rulemaking cosmetology 2018 rules. And as you may recall, that's the equipment requirements. They were fairly lengthy rules, and I think the intent of that was to make it easier for the amount of equipment that's actually required. That set of rules is actually being prepared for filing with the Secretary of State. And I would like to, if it's okay with the board, I would like to schedule the rulemaking hearing for the next board meeting, which would be April 6th. And I have to do that because in order to file with the Secretary of State, I have to have an anticipated rulemaking hearing date, which is 52 days out from the actual rulemaking hearing. So the next board meeting would fit very well if I could get approval from the board to do that.
You need a motion for that?
Make a motion to approve rulemaking hearing.
Second.
We'll have a roll call.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Patricia Parsons and a second by Ms. Amy Tansley.
I'm sorry, we didn't have any discussion. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Wybeck Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley?
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Whitson? Thank you. All in agreement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's all the rules that I have to update you on.
On the iPads, the first bill on your iPad is on page 3. It is House Bill 1970. This is part of this time of year. We make sure that the board is aware of any and all legislative bills that have been proposed. You have 3 before you that went in, and we were able to see as of Friday. And as the board knows, and anyone that is watching, these can change. And so we will not meet again until April. If you have any doubts on how to look these up, anything along those lines, both you and I and Pam, all 3 of us are available to help guide you through these, but it's something you'll have to keep an eye on, especially between meetings. It's all yours.
Thank you. First bill on your iPad.
Roxana, I cannot.
Hold on a second. Yes, Mona?
I cannot hear him.
To be read.
Can you hear me now, Mona?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm not Mona, but I can hear you, but I didn't like
Oh,
she
I
did.
thought that was Mona.
Yes, I can
Thank
hear
you.
you.
Yeah, you got
Yes,
Okay,
it.
thank
we're
you.
good. All right. The first bill on your iPads is House Bill 1970.
Mhm.
It's a caption bill as is currently drafted. As it's introduced, it lengthens from 10 to 14 days the time period in which the board has to publish changes of applicable laws and rules on its website from the effective date of changes. And that, at this time, that's all this bill is doing. But we'll keep you updated on that one. Are there any questions on that? Okay. The next bill on your iPad is going to be House Bill 1944. This bill is focused on reciprocity. It aims to unify circumstances in which a licensing authority should issue reciprocity. And it essentially says a license shall be issued to a person upon application for reciprocity if the following apply. The person currently holds a valid license in another state with a similar scope of practice. Person is required to pass an exam or meet education or experience standards in the other state. The person has not had a license revoked and has not voluntarily surrendered a license while under investigation for unprofessional conduct. Person has not been disciplined by another licensing authority. Person does not have an investigation pending before another licensing authority. The person pays all applicable fees, and the person does not have disqualifying criminal history. And that's what that bill is aiming to do at the present time. So, are there any questions on that bill?
On item number 5 in there, it specifically says that they've not had a license revoked or voluntarily surrendered in any other state while under investigation for unprofessional conduct. So if they were under investigation for any other issue, everything else would still be acceptable.
Welcome, Ms. Barger. Thank you. Monday and parking, we understand. We are so glad you're here.
Extra bad today.
Yes.
Any questions on this one?
No, thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. We have one more bill. This is House Bill 1945. This bill allows customers. Sorry, I hand wrote this one. Hopefully, I can read what I wrote. This bill allows customers of. It basically allows customers to contract with individuals who are licensed, who are not licensed, provided that the customer is informed and agreeable to hold the unlicensed person unaccountable for anything absent an action brought for intentional, willful, or malicious conduct.
This is not specific to barbering or cosmetology, but for all professional licenses?
Would that apply to a legal license per se, or to a doctor's license, or?
I don't have the bill in front of me, but it does not just apply to barber.
It covers all of 62, which is most of our professional licenses under businesses and trades. So it's broad.
So with that being said, that this basically a person does not have to be licensed in any of those things under 62, as long as the consumer agrees that they waive all liability of anything happening.
That is my understanding.
would this be a written agreement between the consumer and the professional, or would this be a verbal agreement? Would this be something that needed to be posted in the place that they work at? Is this applying to the workplace, at home, anywhere? Yeah, so that's about 3 questions.
I'm not sure based on things.
It's written.
I mean, did you hear what I just said, or?
I did.
Okay, so it was on. I don't know.
Okay, so it does say written. I see that, and I see that the bill is like 23 pages long, saying the same thing over and over again. Is that because it covers so many professions under the 62?
Yes.
Okay.
You'll see the separate chapters. For barbering, we would be 3, and for Cosmo, we would be 4. But you'll see all the different chapters listed there on all the professions it covers.
Okay, so I did take a little time to scan over this particular bill. But I still have to, I need the question answered. Is this in the workplace, or does this apply at home too, or anywhere?
I'm not sure. I would have to look into that and get back to you.
This is sponsored by Daniel, and it is House Bill 1945. This is something I think we really ought to look at very closely.
Yeah.
And this is just giving anybody open range to do whatever they want to do without being trained in any field.
And so my concern lies into the public. You know, who's being held accountable when something goes wrong?
Looks like this bill gives the public the right to waive their right to have anybody be held accountable.
I think this would be an ideal case that individually or as a group, we might want to contact our local representatives and senators, folks on the Hill, and express all of our opinions on this. I would encourage anybody who is watching to also avail themselves of the process and participate fully. If you don't want to see licensing and regulation for the purpose of public health and welfare and safety go away, this might be something that deserves a lot of attention. As I'm just glancing at the bottom of one of the pages, notwithstanding what they said about people agreeing, it also says a party not privy to the written agreement may still bring an action against either party. So it sounds like if someone did something untoward and they weren't notified and didn't have a written agreement, then it could still land on the board's desk and purview. So there's a lot to this, a lot more than can be consumed in just a few minutes here at our meeting, but we need to look at this closely. Unfortunately, by the time of our next meeting, some of this may have already been acted upon. So time is of the essence.
So I hope everybody gets in contact with their representatives.
Yeah, I agree with Chairman Ron. I think this is detrimental to the public when it comes to our industry. Our industry is already kind of on the bottom of the totem pole with respect. So I completely oppose this bill.
I agree.
Okay. Do we have any other questions on this one?
Yes. So right now, where is this bill at, and what's the next step to this bill? What action is going to be taken? Since we don't meet again until April, what would it look like to try to stop this bill?
The last update we have from the General Assembly is that it was assigned in subcommittee at the end of January, and we haven't received an update since. Of course, we can track the bill, but as the chairman pointed out, the next meeting is not until April, so
What subcommittee is it in?
Hold on a second. Mona, go ahead.
Which subcommittee is it in? Which?
it was assigned to the business subcommittee in the House. And on the Senate side, it's referred to the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee.
Okay.
And that's as of the end of January.
Okay. I would make a strong recommendation for everyone to go on the 10.gov website under legislature and identify all of those subcommittee members, because it goes pretty fast when it gets out of subcommittee. So if we could express our opposition to the members of those committees, they would recognize that it's not a favorable bill, and in some cases, many things do not leave those committees. So that would be a plan of action that I would certainly recommend and suggest to anyone that has concerns about this.
Okay. Once again, these are legislative updates, and these are things that hopefully we're all being aware of and being proactive and taking a look at these before we even arrive here. So it's incumbent upon all of us as professionals to be on top of our industry, I believe personally. So the appropriate place to address this would be Capitol Hill. Okay. Okay.
Oh, I just wanted to say that that's all the legislative updates I have, but I want to let you know that I will keep you updated on these bills and continue to track them on our side of things. So.
If I could, someone just joined us. Is that Ms. Nguyen? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Oh, Ms. Nguyen, if it's okay with the chair and with the board, we have a licensee, a future licensee joining us telephonically. Ms. Nguyen, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, so board members, and we've got 2 board members participating telephonically. We will skip for a minute if it's okay with you. We have Ms. Ann Thai Kim Nguyen joining us telephonically, and as the board knows, anytime individuals can, we do that so they don't have to incur the cost of traveling. This is an application to release a license. Ms. Nguyen has taken her practical and theory exam and passed. At the last board meeting, the board reviewed her application. It was a previously revoked license, and we always have to present those to you to approve. I cannot do those. At that meeting, we discussed her application, and we thought that she had been revoked twice. That was not the case. The reason for the confusion as we looked at it is her application had education repeated several times, and so it made her license history very confusing. Most individuals don't redo the education piece, so that muddied things a bit. And so the board wanted an audit of the hours, and that's why we requested that she appear. So I appreciate you being with us, Ms. Nguyen. I will turn it over to the board, but because you don't have anything in front of you, we did not have confirmation she'd be participating. You don't have it on your iPads because of that. So Ms. Nguyen was originally did her education in Southern Institute of Cosmetology. She completed her hours. That would be 600 hours in manicuring between 2003 and 2004. So we had schooling there. Then she came in through reciprocity in 2013. And the piece that confused it is she redid her education again in West Tennessee in 2017, it looks like, between May 2nd, 2017 and August 30th, 2017, while she had an active license. So her license didn't actually get revoked until November 2019. So that was what confused the piece, is redoing her education and testing while she had an active license. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll let the board ask her any questions on her education, because I think that was the confusing piece. And again, I appreciate she's participating telephonically.
Ms. Nguyen, thank you for joining us today. I think we just had some confusion on the previous revocations and why you would have attended a school if your license had not been previously revoked. So can you tell us a little bit about your education scenario, where you went to school and your original revocation?
At the last minute cut school.
Could you speak up for us just a little bit?
At the last minute cut.
Last minute cut.
Last minute cuts, okay.
Address is
Is that a barber school or a Cosmo school? Both?
both.
Both, okay. Okay. Where were you originally licensed from?
Texas.
You were originally licensed in Texas. Okay. What was the name of the school you were licensed in Texas?
At the beauty school. It's called beauty school.
Okay, that was a licensed school in Texas? Was the school in Texas a licensed and authorized school?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many hours did you attend there?
100 hours.
I'm sorry, again?
100 hours.
100 hours?
600.
Oh, 600, I'm sorry, I apologize, I couldn't hear you. 600 hours there, okay. And you took the Texas exam? Did you take and pass the Texas state exams?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All righty. Do you remember what year that was? Okay.
No, sir.
No. Okay. If you don't remember that year, that's fine. Can I ask you why it was that you decided to enroll in school in Tennessee if your license was valid?
I got the letter for revoke my license. I start for my another license, my new license in Tennessee.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Roxana, did she, in our records, she completed the Tennessee course?
So the piece that made it confusing is in our records, Ms. Nguyen, did you attend Southern Institute of Cosmetology in 2003 to 2004?
Yes, but I didn't went to the exam.
Okay. And so that was part of the confusing piece. Completing hours means you don't lose them. So thank you. She did not take the exams. The Texas portion you asked about is the revoked license. And again, the confusing part would be attending school in 2017 when she had an active license and it wasn't revoked. So we do show she's passed the exam. The practical exam is the only one I have in front of me. She passed on September 25th, 2019.
Do we have any other questions? So she has attended Tennessee hours and she has taken the exams and passed. Her license was revoked, I think, in Texas, and we had a number of schools in Texas that we'd had issues with a while back, so very well may have been part of that group.
And the only correction there is the license here was revoked from the reciprocity in Texas.
Because of the
Correct.
Texas reciprocity.
And just so the board knows, the license in Texas has not been revoked.
Okay.
It's expired status, but not revoked.
That's where she's.
So that's where the reciprocity got crossed up.
So we are determining whether to grant her current Tennessee license after the hours that have been completed and both exams have been passed. Then I make a motion that we grant her license.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to grant this license. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, we're going to take a roll call.
We're going to take a roll call. So we have a motion to accept, and this is Ms. Ann Thai Kim Nguyen, who at the last meeting was asked for the hours to be audited, and we presented them today. We have a motion from Ms. Amy Tansley and a second from Ms. Patricia Parsons, and I will take roll. Ms. Kelly Barger?
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillahan?
Yes.
Ms. Yvette Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley?
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Witcher.
Yes.
Thank you. All in agreement, and congratulations, Ms. Nguyen. We will get the license processed, and thank you for participating telephonically.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good luck.
Take care. Good luck.
Okay. Ms. Roxanne, I believe we're ready for folks who need to appear before the board,
Thank you.
Barber Schools.
Absolutely. So next on your iPads, we have our appearing before the board, and we start with Urban Beauty and Barber Institute.
Is there anybody from Urban here?
They were going to try to make it, and I don't believe they're participating telephonically. If we need to delay this, we can. The reason this is a little bit differently, you have everything on your iPads. This school was presented and approved for their barber school license, and they've actually been inspected already. Mr. Tim Burns is the owner. They're now wanting the cosmetology school license, so they've got the other part of the building ready. The school is located in Memphis. It is a total of 5,145 square feet. I'll let the board review. If we have any questions, we would need them to appear, but given that at the last meeting they presented the other discipline, I'll let the board decide if we want to proceed or delay it till May.
Their barber program has been approved by us.
Yes, it
And
has.
inspected.
And inspected, and they now are expanding and making sure that they've got all the equipment for the cosmetology. And as I say inspected, our field inspector has gone, so we need that some equipment. I can't guarantee you they're waiting on both to be inspected, but it has been approved. And you should have the enrollment agreement, which you don't need any set number for the cosmetology. Everything else is almost identical to what they previously presented.
And they would be inspected again for the cosmetology program?
If it has not been, yes, because they've added equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Roxana, I may have moved into the next one, but I believe is Brilliere, is that a new school? Or
That is a
one?
change in name for a school. Brilliere
Okay,
is
okay.
opened a brand new one also. Coincidentally, at the last meeting, we addressed their school. They're changing Franklin Academy
Right.
to Brilliere, yes.
That's separate.
That's separate, yes, that's the second one. So you want to stop at page 39.
Do have all their contracts ready for this, or the
For cosmetology, they just need one blank contract.
Okay.
They presented the 15 for the barber.
Make a motion to accept it with inspection.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve this with our inspections. Is there any other discussions or any questions? Hearing none, Ms. Roxana, call the roll.
Thank you. And we have a motion made by Ms. Patricia Parsons and a second by Ms. Amy Tansley. And if I'm not mistaken, if a board member has already gone and been able to see all the equipment for both disciplines, only the field inspector would go back. Otherwise, the board member would still be going. So by roll call, Ms. Kelly Barger,
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton,
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan,
Yes.
Ms. Wybeck Granger,
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parson,
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield,
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley,
Yes.
Ms. Susan Witcher.
Yes.
Thank you. All in agreement? Thank you. Next on your iPad, starting on page 40, this is Franklin Academy. It is a school name change only. Mr. Smith? This school is associated with Brilliare Beauty Institute. The one that we presented last meeting was the brand-new facility, and this one is simply changing the name of the school. The school's located in Cleveland, Tennessee. That way, for accreditation purposes, both schools will have the same name.
Make a motion to approve the name change.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the name change. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Amy Tansley and a second by Ms. Janie Ross. Ms. Kelly Barger,
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton,
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan,
Yes.
Ms. Wybeck Granger,
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons,
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield,
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley,
Yes.
Ms. Susan Witcher.
Yes.
Thank you. All in agreement. Next on your iPads, you have our applications to test, and we start on page 45. The applications for examination, these are felony applicants that you see before you, are for Ms. Whitney Benton, Ms. Mr. Nicholas Fox, Kelsey McCarter, and Amy McPherson. I will let the board review. These applicants have felonies within the last 3 years and/or are currently incarcerated. The request is for them to take the Tennessee examination, and so this is submitted for your review. The required information, disclosure from the student, as well as a letter of recommendations presented before you. If the board is in agreement, we historically do an agreed order for each of these individuals for a probationary period of 2 years that legal counsel sends out for them to sign before we can get them to test and get a license.
Making a motion to put these folks forward to test. Have they already tested?
They have not.
Okay. I make a motion that we put them forward to test with the 2-year probation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve these felony applicants for testing. Is there any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Amy Tansley and a second by Ms. Patricia Parsons. I believe one, and I apologize, is a reciprocal applicant with a felony, Ms. Nicholas Fox, but otherwise the rest have
From
not
Florida.
tested, so we should be fine. And I will do the roll call to see if everyone's in agreement. Ms. Kelly Barger?
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Yes.
Ms. Webnick Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley?
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Witcher?
Yes.
Thank you. We will get all those out. Next on your iPads, you are on page 72. And I'll let everybody get to this piece. This is a request for an approval of an online manicure curriculum. We've had an issue with our live streaming, so I'm hoping that we are back up and running because Ms. Brittany Stewart is very anxious for this decision. She's been watching. And so I hate when our online stream that's live doesn't work. Hopefully she's able to see it. But I'll give you all a second to look at all this. Ms. Stewart is beginning to look at education and wanting to obtain a license in our industry. She is unable to attend a traditional school due to her medical condition. She's provided medical information as well as details from the online school. TAOND is the Academy of Nail Design. They have presented all their certification information for the board to review. They're answering the questions that we thought would be appropriate that you would ask about. Their online program, the 600 hours that they will be able to teach Ms. Stewart if she gets approval from the board to start her education. She's anxious to start and is only waiting for this approval. She understands that later she will need to present her medical paperwork to PSI to make sure that that exam is also customized as it may need to be. She is, I believe, has answered on the first piece, which is on 72, explained her situation. She is very dynamic and really excited about being able to do this. We tried to get as much information about the school as you may want to review, and the school information starts, I believe, on page 76.
So we would approve her to take this education course, and pending she completes that, she would take our exams?
Exactly. So it's a non-traditional method. She wouldn't be applying for reciprocity because she won't have a license anywhere else. It's not a licensed school in Tennessee. Her request is because of the medical condition. So she definitely would qualify for the board to look at all this and make some exceptions. We've spent some time, both the board administrator, John Lillard, and myself, looking at what this course offers. I believe they're out of Canada. It looks like very thorough material. Ms. Charlton, you being specifically in the manicure industry, definitely take a look at it. It looks very thorough. They've been wonderful working with her as far as answering her questions. They'll do testing and so forth. But obviously, she did not want to incur the cost and get into this and not have the hours be recognized.
So if I'm understanding what I'm seeing in front of me, essentially she's interested in doing a online program that may be offered in Canada, wherever she lives now. She wants to do that online through Canada. And she wants to know before she obligates herself that those hours and that credit might be transferable to Tennessee.
Correct.
Once she has a Canadian license.
No, she will not be getting a Canadian license. This is strictly the hours that she would, that would be 600 hours that would meet our curriculum. They're aware of what we require, as well as They'll be helping her prep for the exams, obviously, and they include some live exams here as well. Then we would put her through to take the exam. This company doesn't have access to add students. We would be the ones in the office adding her in. So if you view it as international hours, what we do with our international students, it's very comparable. Their schools, for the most part, are probably in person, but may include some online. We really don't know. So with an international student, we take their documents, we make sure that they're in English so we understand them, we make sure that they're properly vetted, certified somehow. If we're in doubt, we put them through Equo International or another evaluation company. For the most part, we accept the international documents and we put individuals to test. So she really isn't much more different than they are from that perspective.
International aspect is what I was looking towards because, whether they're coming from the Middle East or anywhere else around the globe, when it comes to internationals, the Reciprocity Committee has always tried to look generously on the requirements that they had. One of the things I think that we have always looked at, of course, is length of time as whether they were licensed over there or educated over there. It's been a minute since we've had a case that was international.
Well, but that's because the board's given me authority to
Right.
review those, and unless we're in doubt of the education, we go ahead and put them through. As long as the hours are there, we can tell that the curriculum's there. If we don't see anything in sanitation, for example, we bring them before the board to review. But lately, we've been able to put, I can't think of the last meeting where we presented one. We've been able to put them through. So this would be, at least from looking at the curriculum, it looks like everything that we have would be there.
What's your feeling on the curriculum, Anita?
So far, it looks pretty standard. I definitely want to go online and, kind of take my time and browse through by not being able to, kind of over it right now. Website.
Just from thinking of the past, this is way more information than we have on a lot of international program certificates that we kind of see.
Different. They have live examinations, environment with a live third-party doctor.
Way like a Skype or FaceTime or something.
We did a similar thing, if the board recalls. We have, I believe, Ms. Sweeting's Academy. When she presented her online piece, she does the same thing. The applicant does the grading on the mannequin and has to record it. This looks like it would be different. Yes. Or along those lines. It would be along those lines.
Right, Santa, just because I happen to think this way from time to time, I realize that when we see these things, we always try to give our applicants the benefit of the doubt, but do we have any actual evidence that this person has the medical conditions that they list? We have.
We
have
do.
any protection there?
We do. She has provided several, as well as she knows that for the exam, she'll need a lot of extra time. That'll be warranted. PSI is wonderful following the Americans with Disability Act, and with that, for her to be able to finish the exam, she understands that she'll have to provide all that to them as well.
So what we're really being asked to do today is saying it's a possibility that if we had these hours come before us, that we would be able to send her to test. She doesn't have them yet, so
Correct.
we're just kind of saying.
Would we be
Would
willing
we?
to consider this
Yes.
before she obligates herself financially in other ways? Also, would be requiring a Tennessee test in the event that she did come through, or?
Well, yes, she would have to take, and she's aware of that piece. That's and whereas the 600 hours could take 2 to 4 months, generally it will take her longer, probably, and this way she can work at her pace, which is what she's needing to do. But the exams would be ours. if you will, I see it like no different than an international
International.
applicant. Had she not come to us and she'd vested the money and done it, we likely would have seen in the certificate that it was online, but I don't know that we would have necessarily, because as long as the hours are there, the curriculum looks right, and it's all vetted to the best that we can vet international hours, we would have probably put her to test. She is very thorough. She's very excited about this, so she's really wanting to start with excitement once the board says you'll be able to test if you complete this.
Now, I know we don't need a motion, but I think our answer is anytime international hours are put before us, we always look through it, and unless there's something that looks extremely off, we give them the opportunity to take the Tennessee exam.
And I think she would prefer a motion simply because of the situation she's in. She obviously, if she doesn't pass the exams, we can't license her. So that's always, but that would be with any international applicant. It would be a motion to accept this online curriculum as we've reviewed it, given her situation, or as international hours, however the board sees fit.
I think we should maybe think about just a blanket, we accept online hours, but that we fairly look at international hours. I mean, because that might get a little crazy if we just say, yes, we take, online hours, but we look at everything. Not real sure what a motion should be.
And you could motion based on what you've reviewed for her to approve the curriculum she's presented. Because in this particular case, I'm not sure who said it, but we are looking at more than what we probably ever do. The school was very kind to answer several of our questions via email, and I want to get to that piece. So pages 74, 75, those are specifically our questions that we wanted to make sure. Is there passing it or failing? And of course, until they pass every chapter, they have to keep taking it.
So maybe a motion would be that we will accept hours from the Academy of Nail Design in Owen Sound, Ontario.
Would it be better that if we create a motion to treat this case as international hours, and whenever they're presented, we will, of course, Roxana has the authority already, if they've substantially met the Tennessee requirements, to approve it for the testing. I mean, that's essentially what we do with international now.
Yeah, that was what I was saying before, but then when Roxana said she thinks that she wants a specific motion just for this case as well.
Well, that might lend us to an endorsement of the school. I don't think we can do that.
I know.
No.
Make a motion to treat it like international hours.
I second that.
Okay.
We have a motion to look at this case when represented to us as international hours, and proceed with our standard.
We have a motion from Ms. Patricia Parson. Who seconded? Rivette. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Kelly. I know you motioned as well. We changed it slightly.
I just was trying to figure out the best wording there to get what she wanted.
So we have a motion and a second to accept this and treat it as international hours. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? We'll call the roll.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly Barger?
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Yes.
Ms. Wyvette Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Amy Tansley?
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Witcher?
Yes.
All in agreement. Thank you. Next on your iPads, we have, give me a minute to get to the right page. On page 90, this is a request for a waiver of the practical exam, and this is by Ms. Morgan Ray Wurtzges. Ms. Wurtzges has completed her cosmetology education in Minnesota, but she did not obtain a license there. Therefore, she does not qualify for reciprocity. She passed the Tennessee exam in November 2019. And you've got an email with her request as well as her practical exam. She's asking for waiver of the practical exam, stating that she was told, I have to presume that that is by the school in Minnesota, that her exam at that school would be acceptable. And she is explaining that she's running out of money and time. However, I will caution the board that at this point, without the practical, she doesn't substantially meet our requirements.
Page is she on, Roxanne?
She starts on page 90. On page
okay.
93 is her written request. And she has passed our practical. We, of course, because she came with ours, and we do that with any student that moves here without a reciprocal license. Once we know that the hours are accepted and we have that transcript, we put them in for the exam. She's passed the theory and wanted to be presented to the board to waive the practical.
That's based on nothing that we've told her, just
That is correct.
that she was hoping to not have to take it. Okay. That would be great. Make the motion to deny. I second that.
The motion.
There you go.
We have a motion and a second to deny this request for a waiver of the practical. Is there any other discussion? Call the roll.
Thank you. We have a first motion by Ms. Kelly Barger and a second by Ms. Wyvette Granger. I will do roll call. Ms. Kelly Barger?
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Yes.
Ms. Wyvette Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parson?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley?
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Wicker?
Yes.
And just to reiterate, this particular motion is denying the request to waive the practical, as in the state of Tennessee, you need the practical and the theory to pass.
Correct.
Thank you. We start with our reciprocal applicants on page 96. We did not have the committee this time because we only had 3 applicants, which is wonderful. Again, thank you to the board for reconsidering reciprocity the way you have. As one of the bills was explained to you by Hugh, that kind of walks in those lines. That one, just if you've got a license somewhere else and it's in good standing, it appears that we'd be able to welcome people and move them faster. On your iPads, you have the first application for reciprocity. This is of a hairdresser license from Alaska, and this is for Kristen Benson. The certification shows an initial licensure in 2017 with 1,650 hours and both exams. That license is a little bit different than ours. My recommendation would be that they take the practical exam.
Make a motion to accept the recommendation from council that this applicant take the practical exam.
Second.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to accept the recommendation. Is there any other discussion?
Thank you. And by roll call, Ms. Kelly Barger?
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Yes.
Ms. Wyvette Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley?
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Wicker?
Yes.
Thank you. All in agreement. Next, we have an application for reciprocity of a cosmetology license from Illinois for Elaine Lother. The certification shows an initial license date of February 1993 with 1,500 hours and both exams. Ms. Lother is also licensed in Florida since June of 2017. The license from Illinois was revoked between 2010 through 2016 for malpractice, incompetence, and unprofessional conduct. Ms. Lother has provided the documents regarding the case as well as a detailed letter. Because this discipline has resulted in revocation of her license, the board may consider denying the license. No further discipline has been taken against Ms. Lother, and she is currently active in both states. My recommendation would be that we approve the reciprocity application. I don't believe we've ever had this, so that is why it's before you. And based on this decision, again, it's because it's within the industry. On the bottom of page 108 on your iPads, you will see the revocation piece. Both licenses, again, are active. Her explanation is there, and I'll let the board review.
Do you have a recommendation?
It is that we approve her license for reciprocity.
She's seeking reciprocity based on the Illinois license.
Yes, and both are active, so yes, it is.
Her license was reinstated.
It was reinstated in 2016. Let me look at the bottom of that. The discipline ended March 4th of 2016. So her Illinois license, which is her home state, is effective until September 30th of 2021.
I make a motion that we approve her for reciprocity.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve for reciprocity. Is there any other discussion? I have a question in her letter, and you may not be able to answer it all, but she explains that she let her license lapse so that it was revoked. I don't see those two things as being connected. It's on page 109. It's about mid-page.
Yeah, I don't either. I think at the top of the page or at one point in the page, she mentions that she did the color wrong and the client was upset and she could have handled it differently, that kind of thing. I don't think the revocation had anything to do with the expired license. That's correct.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Ms. Roxanne, if you'll call the roll.
And if I could, please, who seconded the motion? Oh, thank you, Ms. Kelly. We have a motion by Ms. Amy Tansley and a second by Ms. Kelly Barger. I will do roll call to see if everyone's in agreement, and the motion is to approve reciprocity. Ms. Kelly Barger?
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Yes.
Ms. Wyvette Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Becky Russell? I'm sorry, she's not with us. Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley?
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Witcher?
Yes.
All in agreement. Thank you. And the next is an application for reciprocity of a cosmetology license from Florida for Brittany Schaefer. The certification shows the license was issued in June 2011 with 1,200 hours and no practical exam. Ms. Schaefer has provided a written explanation that she only does nails and that is her passion. She has also provided paperwork from employers, tax records that show clear indication that her experience is all in the manicuring industry. She does not have the confidence to pass the practical cosmetology exam because she's not been doing hair. She is requesting that the board please allow her to take the exams, and she would be taking both in the manicuring industry.
I make a motion to approve her to test in the manicuring for both manicure exams, the theory and the practical.
Correct.
Yes, that is my motion. And we would grant her then manicuring licenses.
Correct.
Yes.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second to allow this candidate to test in the manicure area and if passed to be licensed as a manicure person. Is there any other discussion?
She'll be giving up all her cosmetology hours then, right?
I don't know that you give up your
No,
hours,
but
but if she ever went
she would-
somewhere else, that would be up to her to pursue cosmetology.
pursue.
Here, she would only be licensed in manicuring, yes.
Any other questions? Call the roll.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly Barger?
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Yes.
Ms. Wyvette Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley?
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Witcher?
Yes.
Thank you. All in agreement? This particular situation, since we now meet only every other month, I thought I'd bring it before the board and see if we can do something. This particular individual, I had the privilege of meeting her. She's got a job pending her exam, so she will literally register to take the exam this afternoon. I was unable to approve her because it isn't the same license type. So she's got an active cosmetology license. I would have moved her. This used to never happen. The downsizing of the license. The first time we had it was a little bit concerning maybe to me. The individual wasn't sure she'd pass any of the exams. In any case, the first and second time that we presented this, I met with the individual and a second person that came with them. It was different than Ms. Schaefer's situation, and it got me to thinking that if this happens and we believe it's because the person has picked an area, a discipline, aesthetics, natural hair, or manicuring, and the exam is in their way, does the board still want to see those on a case by case, or do you want to grant the office permission to change those? In her case, she waited an entire extra month to work, and the job was understanding, but nevertheless, they also checked in with us. Are we sure that we can't just get her to test?
I think anytime they're downsizing, I think that would be a decision you should be able to make.
I agree.
I make a motion to approve Roxanne to make the approval of the downsizing or changing of the license.
A second promotion.
Ms. Janie? Ms. Janie Ross seconds it. Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, call the roll.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly Barger? Yes. Ms. Anita Charlton? Yes. Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Yes.
Ms. Wyvette Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parson?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tanksley?
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Witcher?
Yes.
Thank you. We've given a motion for myself and the office to review the documents anytime that there is a downgrading of a license type, so they don't have to wait. I appreciate that immensely. We have one final document. I think I handed 3 copies of that in paper format for your review. And I thank you for considering this in paper. I'll walk everyone through it. This just came in on Thursday and Friday. This is an active military individual that has filed for an application for reciprocity with us. And this particular cosmetology license would be coming as an active license from Massachusetts. The state of Massachusetts calls it a hairdresser license, so it's not cosmetology. However, it is very much in line. They still do touch on other disciplines. The problem we have, one, is it's not a full active cosmetology. It's hairdresser. And then the second piece is the license was issued June of 2019. So with reciprocity, we are now approving those as long as they've been licensed for 1 year and both exams. This individual does have both exams. So in the state of Massachusetts, they took the theory and practical, only 1,000 hours, but they are military. So rather than have them wait until April, I appreciate you letting me pass this around. I have one more copy if we want to pass it. It's up to the board's discretion. Do we approve this individual? Do we take special consideration because of the military status? What do we do with the 500 hours? Do we do either of the exams or just grant the license?
I have a question. Do we know if Massachusetts has, I know that's coming from the Cosmetology and Barbering Board. Do we know if they have a cosmetology license and then a separate hairdresser license?
I will send a quick note to John to confirm. This came in so last minute. I
Okay.
want to say that they call it hairdresser, but it is only their cosmetology.
Okay.
So as we look at everything else, I can send a quick note and make sure. I think it's both exams. I do think they compare it to our cosmetology, just call it differently.
Okay. Curious.
Yeah.
So one thing that she's kind of really missing is that 1 year.
Right,
Because she
she's missing
didn't-
6 months.
Yeah.
Yes. If this was the full year, we'd be moving them in the office as we have, hence why you only had 3 reciprocal to look at. So she'd be missing time. Obviously, putting a military individual back to school after they've taken both exams is not what we would like to see, but it's at your discretion.
Even on the reciprocity changes that we made previously, she would still fall short on those as well. So the only extra consideration, I guess, would be the military component. We do have the ability to consider military service whenever we're granting these or denying these. So just put it.
I would feel comfortable granting her because of the military life and everything, to make the exception for her on a
She
case by
is, she is the
case.
service person.
She is the service
Yes,
person.
yes.
Yes. So,
That's a motion? I second it.
So we have a motion to, is this to grant reciprocity?
yes.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. Based on the military factor, is there any other discussion? Call the roll.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Patricia Parsons and a second by Ms. Yvette Granger to consider the military piece and grant reciprocity to this individual. And the name is Sydney Valentine Sachs. I will do roll call. Ms. Kelly Barger,
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton,
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan,
Yes.
Ms. Yvette Granger. Yes. Ms. Patricia Parsons,
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield,
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley,
Yes.
and Ms. Susan Witcher.
Yes.
Thank you. Approved by all. And with that, we are on to our miscellaneous applications. If the board needs to take a break, please let me know. We're good? Thank you. We are on page 127 of your iPads. The first applicant is a request for waiver or reconsideration. This is a request for a waiver to need to retest pursuant to Rule 0440-1-.10, which states that an applicant must apply for and pay for the original license within 6 months after passing the examination. The board may, for good cause, waive this requirement. The board has previously authorized me to be able to approve these extensions for up to 6 months, but only within that first full year. We have before us Ms. Yen Nguyen. She did not have the current document she needed as a qualified alien when she passed her practical exam in July 2018. So she's just about a year and a half passing the exam. She had let her permanent resident card expire. She is requesting that the board please waive the need for her to retest, given that it was outside of her control to quickly get her permanent resident card reinstated and back to active.
Is your permanent resident card in good standing now?
It is. It is active now, and that's what prompted her to apply for the license, but we couldn't approve it.
I make a motion that we approve her license.
Second motion.
Thank you, Ms. Janie Ross, second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this licensure. Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly Barger,
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton,
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan,
Yes.
Ms. Yvette Granger,
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons,
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield,
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley,
Yes.
and Ms. Susan Witcher.
Yes.
Thank you. All in agreement. Next, we have a request for consideration for professional education in lieu of the approved instructor continuing education requirement from a cosmetology instructor. Her name is Sandy Robertson. Pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated 62-4-114, an instructor must complete the 16 hours of an approved training program. It is at the board's discretion to approve up to an additional year extension for good cause. Ms. Robertson explained that she was pursuing her education as a nurse and that she believes that those hours should count toward her required instructor continued education. The board is able to look at how this medical curriculum could play a role in the 16 hours. I did point out that it has nothing to do with teaching methodology, so I'll leave it at the board's discretion.
You know how far she laid it, how past due she is for her continuing education? Oh, wait, I see it now. She's July.
Yes, so the last time she took the 16 hours was in 2017. So
Okay.
if we don't, she's got until May 31st of 2020 to take the 16 hours. I believe that limits her to 2 sessions, if I'm not mistaken. And so she'd either have to do those 2, if the board doesn't approve it, or place her instructor license on an active status so that she wouldn't have to retest.
Or we
Or
can grant her the
request
Right,
extension.
the
Or you
one-time
grant her,
extension.
yes.
Okay.
So this would be her first one-time extension, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so we could grant her the extension, but her going to nursing school, it has nothing to do with continuing education hours. So,
Now, that would mean she still can't teach in the cosmetology industry because she doesn't meet the requirement, but yes, she would, you could grant her that, absolutely.
She's not asking
Yeah,
for a
she's not
request
asking
here, so
for
we
it
can't, she's not requesting an extension, so we can't grant that.
we're basically saying because her nursing hours should be
Not toward the
counted.
16.
I make a motion to deny.
We have a motion to
second
deny
it.
this request. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Yes.
Seconded by Mona. Is there any other questions or discussion?
Yes, my only
Yes,
comment
I-
would be I would have liked her to come to the board before doing this for us to consider rather than after the fact.
I want to state this. I think that maybe if she know that she can get a one-time extension, that'll work out better instead of her telling us to use these hours in place of. Yeah, that doesn't work that way. Yeah.
She will have some options. One would be to go inactive until she can take it. And that if she's not teaching, that may work out better because then, and I did explain that she's not using the one-time extension. If she's not teaching, that can work out.
And our class is coming up in March.
Yes. No, we have dates all over till the end of the year. So we had a motion and a second. Was that correct?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on this? We'll call the roll, please.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly Barger?
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Yes.
Ms. Whitevet Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley?
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Witcher?
Yes.
All in agreement, and that motion was to deny this particular request. Next on your iPads, we are on page 134, and I apologize for those that are appearing telephonically. I don't think you've got the numbers in front of you, so I'll try to go over them all. The first thing that you see is the financial report. This is the net change in our position. Fiscal year 2020 between July and December shows an additional $14,665 added to the surplus, putting the total amount that we have at $912,523. The last 2 months have had quite a bit of the cost back pieces, so it still doesn't worry me. I think we're going to end the year just fine. But as you can see, for the months of November and December, we ended up in the red. So we're still, I think, where we want to be, which is with not a lot of excess money. We're not overcharging by any means, but with a program that does a lot of complaints and field inspections, we're just always going to have a lot of expenses. The next page does have the breakdown by line of the expenses. And then on page 136, those are our closed cases with civil penalties for your review.
And we don't need to approve those civil penalties any further?
No, not at all. By then, they've already taken place. If there are no other questions on page 137, and I will make sure to email this to all the board members, it'll also be part of our minutes. At the last minute, we talked about our licensing numbers, and I didn't get a chance to do these way in advance. I had meant to actually email them already to everyone. I know, Ms. Sappenfield, you had asked for these numbers, and so I'll make sure that you have them today. So these are, again, nothing we need to vote on, but I did want us to look at them. Within all of our individual licensee categories, we see that just about all of them have gone up. 2016, this is based on initial licenses.
These are
How
new.
many?
These are new licenses.
Yes. How many came in each year? At the bottom, I have the grand total, which is higher than it has been as well. So we have a total of 69,108 active licenses. I believe for a long time we were in the 67,000 range. So this is an increase. Within, again, just looking at how many new individuals we had at our last meeting, Ms. Sappenfield asked about us. The statisticians in particular said, I know that our numbers have gone up there. And so we can see that within individuals, I think all of our categories have actually gone up within those welcoming into the industry. This would include initials within Tennessee, internationals, as well as reciprocal. The shops look to have slowed down as far as brand new shops. What we have often is the shops that move, that change location. That is a very heavy piece. But within the shops, in 2017, toward the end of 2017, so it impacted us in 2018, we had the dual license shops. And so that offsets a little bit for the drop in initial barber shops and in initial cosmetology. We have 166 brand new dually licensed shops and 188 just last year. So, if you look at 2016, we had 1,283 brand new shops, and 2019, 1,268 brand new shops. So almost identical when you look at that. But it's clear that the shops are preferring the dual side that opens up what they do, which is wonderful. I mean, that'll also help the managers and hopefully better service the public. Any questions on our numbers? Things we want to see different? The brand new license is the registration of our hair braiders, and that's at 174. So we of course, that was the first time we had that registration, that we had it since July of 2019.
Good job.
I will turn it over to legal and Pam and Hugh so that we can get the legal report updated.
And I guess this is more of a question. Do we want to go ahead and look at the agreed citation schedule before we talk about the legal report? Because that might change some recommendations.
Do that.
So on your iPads, the agreed citation is on page 139, and I did email this to everyone. We discussed considering a change or update. That doesn't mean that we need to make one, but that's the reason everyone was sent this. This is what we've been following since February 2015. The reason I think we brought this to be reconsidered had to do with the shops, the change in location of shops, and some of our complaints when what I'll call a full large shop moves. To make it simple, we'll say from Knoxville to Chattanooga. It's going to a completely different location. We have to go inspect. If we go and find the shop working before we were able to inspect, that's unlicensed activity. We go ahead and cite that. We often also see the change in location taking place within what we call our salon suites, the smaller individual units within a large section. And the concern was, is that different or are they the same violation? So we could be consistent. And so you've got the agreed citation before you in case we want to make any changes. This would be a good time to ask questions, make sure that Hugh and Pam are also comfortable or recommend anything that they would like to see change.
And legal does want to discuss with the board what was discussed in the committee meeting regarding category 3, but I'll let you all review it first in case you have anything else other than category 3.
So what you presented, this is what the current guidelines are.
Right.
You're not proposing any new changes other than what we discussed earlier that we're going to discuss.
Under the category 3.
Yes.
As far as the change of location, the only thing that I would say is we don't see a lot of violations with this. Like, I don't know that there's any on this report. I'm not saying that people don't change location, but I didn't see any on this report. But I do know that there was some discussion at our last board meeting about the salon suites. Because I do recall on that legal report, the issue was, I think the person didn't really understand because the physical address is not changing. They share equipment sometimes, as you all know, in salon suites. So that's, I guess, the issue before you.
And we may readdress that particular piece when Mr. Gambus is back with us. I know that our conversation was that they are the same. When a shop moves and has a change of location, unless they are inspected before they reopen, that should be considered unlicensed activity. When the shop moves, they have to have obviously a current license, and sometimes that's confusing. They forget to renew. So we make sure that they renew in order to move the license with them. Sometimes they won't post the shop license because the shop license is going to give the address of your previous location. So sometimes we see that. But for the most part, the field inspector goes and sees that thinks it's a new shop, and it isn't. It's a change in the license being moved to a new location.
Recalling the conversations we had at the last meeting and Frank's comments, I know we felt very strongly that if someone moves 3 doors down in that suite, then that's effectively a move. I don't disagree with that at all. There's also some requirements. This is a little bit to the left of that, but there's some requirements that if a shop changes a manager, they're supposed to notify the board and update the manager's information. Is that correct?
They are, however, with the updated fees and the dual shop, that's allowed some flexibility because it does say that they're to post who their manager is somewhere so that we can see. That has actually helped a lot. If we have about 10,000 active shops and they change managers every month,
Frequently.
we really we couldn't handle that. So when shops renew, they must tell us who the active manager is. So that is that point in time where they have to update their data. Otherwise, our files reflect that one manager still in the license file. We understand that that person hopefully isn't working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. So we understand and have that flexibility when we go in to ask who the license manager is. But you are correct. We must have an active manager at all times.
The reason I brought that up is because, again, with the recent changes, I understand it's a lot of people to keep up with, but when they did have to report it through the court system, I was just thinking broadly that if we can look in the direction maybe of some kind of a notification system that would still need to rise to the level of a change of location within a salon suite, or some type of a notification that they could send to the board so we have something on record so the inspector would know of the change. I'm just kind of brainstorming here.
I don't disagree either that a salon, if you move your salon, that's a move. My concern is that when a salon owner is wondering if they need to fill out a new form, they need to we need to communicate with them that even though you're not changing your physical address, you still need to submit a request for a salon. Well, it's a fee. I mean, they need to go ahead and do that, because I don't think, just imagining, they're thinking, well, I'm not changing location. I'm not changing anything on my application, so that means I don't need this application. I think we just need to communicate to them, maybe through the inspectors, that yes, even if you're not changing your address, but you're changing suites, that is a change of location.
And that is exactly how it happens. Mm-hmm. So if you picture a large, beautiful salon that has several subdivided areas with small salon suites, whatever we want to call them, that's how the inspector notices and says, wait a minute, Ms. Barger, you weren't here last time. This is an add-in. This is brand new. That is considered a violation. And so the reason legal, and we're not seeing that many on most of our legal reports, is because the agreed citation process allows us to have them resolve it. They then complete the application and they take care of it, and they have the proper signage posted and the current inspection sheet. And so and we do see a lot of them. We treat them that way.
Well, I mean, the good news in this industry is there's a lot of different ways to do this. But from my understanding, if you are not a suite renter, you are a salon owner.
Yes.
And so if you are a salon owner and you own your business and you own your salon, I don't really care where you're doing it. The rules are still the same.
Right?
Correct.
I agree.
And maybe it's up to the landlords to let their tenants know, look, the board is considering each of these suites a different location. So if anyone's wanting to change suites, you need to apply for a change of location.
So, really for clarity for the licensees, if we have some type of a statement or policy on how that is addressed, that might help them. I would agree with something that you mentioned earlier. Frank had some strong opinions on this, and I'd really kind of like to have him here to
No, I don't think.
speak to his.
Yeah, I
his
don't think
ideas.
anybody disagreed with him. I certainly didn't disagree. I'm just stating the fact that people are not gonna
Extra
assume.
money.
Right.
They're not gonna say, oh,
Right.
just because I'm moving, 100 feet down, but I'm still having this. Someone needs to communicate to them that, yes, that is a change of location.
Yes.
And we have some options for communicating. We try to do a lot of things through media everything from fire to 911, that's all part of what we do. And so we definitely can take advantage of something like this to protect the public to our shops. I don't know that many of our shops sign up to get notified. That's a functionality in our system. But, now since we're streaming and talking about it, definitely as board members, you all should sign up, have your people that work with you. That way, when rules take place, laws, they'll see them. So I don't know that we'll be very successful in how many shops are signed up, but we can definitely put something educational out. And that's what the field inspectors do. When they notice you weren't here before, this is a new shop, depending if that license is active, it still is a license that belonged at a different address. So it can even be unlicensed activity.
Yes. Well, it could be the same, when the suites in studio rentals and all that first emerged, there were buildings that just had one shop license. And so then the fact had to be communicated that no, each individual suite is a separate shop license. So that was kind of the first learning curve. And this is the next learning curve that, you need to fill out a change of location form.
To agree further with Amy over here too, there's something that I always say to my students, and they would apply in my thinking to every licensee. I frequently ask my students when a question comes up or an issue, who's responsible? And ultimately, you are, I am, they are. So that licensee is absolutely responsible for knowing the regulations, knowing the law. And
Right. And so when they go on and see, okay, I'm not changing my address. So, they're thinking they're getting things mailed to them. They're thinking it's all about where they're going to receive mail.
So what do we want to do with these recommendations? We're going to make any kind of a motion, going to make any suggestions, or wait till next month and not to kick it down the road?
I don't think there's anything we can do except for ask our field inspectors to just communicate what their responsibilities are, the salon owners.
And they do that, and as Pam mentioned to me, and we will look into what are our abilities with emails that we have on the shops to maybe do an educational piece. Please don't forget, when you move in any way, shape, or, it's considered a change in location. Here's the statute to read. The application for the change of location, it's still one of the very few things we still have in paper, unfortunately. And it's because you're taking an existing license and moving it, and so we need to go inspect it. We're hoping that it can be done soon. Trust me, Betty lives this every day. be done online, but it just can't right now. We
Yeah.
can't get you to go and grab your correct license and make the change. So hopefully soon, but it's still there in paper. So we'll continue the education and see what else we can add to it.
It's also a good thing to talk about in the CEUs whenever you go
yes.
speak or we go.
Yes,
Something we can bring up to the educators, and then there's.
to
there's a
pass
good
along to
foundation.
the students. Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm glad we're going through this process of looking through the citations. It's been a long time. As someone, with Ron, who sits on the complaint committee every month that we meet, I feel like it's working. I want to reiterate that, I think these rules are still valid. I think there's always exceptions or changes as the industry changes, but overall, I don't see any massive gaps. And we can discuss later sort of some of the active licenses and expired license, but as a whole, I feel that these rules are working.
Thank you.
If nobody has any other questions about the schedule as a whole, I want to talk about Category 3. That has to do with expired licenses. Legal is not recommending a change in the Category 3. First offense is $100, second offense is $500, third offense being $1,000. However, we had a discussion in the committee meeting this morning that what legal is recommending is some discretion on the expired license complaints, specifically when the inspector goes in, and this is just by way of example, not pointing to any specific complaint right now. When the inspector goes in and the license is expired, it can be for the shop or the individual. There is a delay, obviously, in the time period by which I get the complaint. The individual, I would say most of the time, renews by the time it's presented to you all in the legal report. I don't have exact timeframes to share. I'm just saying in general, they have renewed by the time it gets to me, basically in legal, by the time it gets to you as the board. Legal is recommending to have discretion to recommend a letter of warning for a first offense, no disciplinary history. This person, for whatever reason, did not renew. Legal's recommendation is based on the fact that if legal attempted to litigate this matter, it may be difficult to litigate these cases with an administrative law judge. At the time of the hearing, the person's renewed, and the filing fee alone is more than the civil penalty. That's not to say that legal couldn't ask for more than $100 in a civil penalty at the time of a hearing, but those cases are very difficult to litigate. So we're not asking for a change of the schedule, we're just asking for discretion in recommendation on the legal report. That will apply to this legal report before you today. Because, for example, I have 13 complaints on the legal report that are expired license that have renewed. So we discussed this in length at the committee meeting, and we agreed that I could change those to a letter of warning, and I can take you through what those are, and we can have more discussion as a board as a whole about legal's recommendations. But that's what legal's recommending, and I'll leave it to you all to discuss.
So essentially, it would be if you were caught for the first time with an expired license per a usual inspection, if that business or license is renewed by the time it hits legal, then we have options to dismiss with a letter of warning. It does not mean it's still on their record. Is that the right word for it?
Yes.
And so if it were to happen again, then we would be up to the $500 fine. And clearly that's a different set of issues.
A letter of warning is not discipline, just so you all are aware. So it doesn't come out on the door. The disciplinary action report.
It would be in their license file, but yes, it's not listed anywhere else.
When the inspectors would issue them a second, it would be there. They would have.
We would see it. Because remember that the field inspectors don't worry about this criteria and which stage we're at.
They just know if
They
it's
just
expired or
issue,
not.
right, that's all
Fair
they
enough.
know. They don't worry about it, which is good. We don't want them debating the amount. That's not in their purview. We have a whole complaint division team that's part of our centralized processes now. They get the joy of seeing where they fall.
This would save us a lot as a board going forward because of all the legal fees and stuff coming out of our budget. If we grant you this, right?
Correct. The complaints, it would still generate a complaint, but it would just be within legal's discretion. It would still show up on your legal report, but the recommendation would be a letter of warning, which obviously would save cost because that letter is generated after the board meeting and the matter's closed.
Which we could always look at in any way, as we have always done in the past. Whatever recommendation is, we've always had the ability to change that as our
I love the
discretion.
discretion, especially if there are other violations or, but for the most part, they're usually, license was expired and they resolve it quite timely, which is great.
The other thing I was going to point out that I forgot to point out just a minute ago is we did discuss in the committee meeting on the legal report, not necessarily this one, but in the future, I will attempt to identify on the expired license cases, this is when the notice of violation was issued, this is when the license was renewed, and then the recommendation would be letter of warning, but it's always discretionary also upon you all. You could disagree with legal's recommendation and assess the penalty.
Thank you.
So we need a motion.
Do we need a motion for that, or are we good?
I don't necessarily, we're not changing the schedule. I guess you could do, if you were so inclined, you could have a motion to give legal the discretion to recommend letter of warning on the expired license cases. But you're not changing the schedule.
Okay.
But then we also have to still talk about the legal report in and of itself.
I'll make a motion to allow legal to send with their discretion, a letter of warning in the future.
The recommendation.
For recommendation.
Recommendation for that.
For expired licenses.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? We'll call the roll.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Patricia Parsons and a second by Ms. Kelly Barger. And this is to allow legal the discretion on their recommendation to issue a letter of warning when it meets this criteria that we've discussed. Ms. Kelly Barger?
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Yes.
Ms. Wybeck Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parson?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley?
Yes.
Ms. Susan Wicker?
Yes.
Thank you.
So then the second motion would be to approve the legal report today with the added changes that we had 13 cases that fell under these new approved discretionary expired license situations. And I'd like to make a motion to approve the legal report with those changes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the legal report with the changes from the committee that also included some students appearing before the board. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Amy Tansley and a second by Ms. Patricia Parson. Ms. Kelly Barger?
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Yes.
Ms. Wybeck Granger?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tansley?
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Wicker? Thank you. That takes care of the legal report. Before we get on to, I think, just about our last item, I wanted to brief the board. We have floating around the continuing education list for 2020. And Ms. Sappenfield and Ms. Ross, I'll make sure to scan it in so you can look at it as well. Our normal process has always been for each board member to, if their schedule permits, try to go to a session that's near them to keep the cost down for the board. And as possible, at least attend one of each of the sessions. Some of the smaller sessions have more than one, and it sometimes makes it difficult for us to go. Again, thinking of the cost behind it, as the board knows, I tried to go to at least one of all the sessions as well. And so I'll make sure that that's passed around, and although we normally don't vote on those, everyone signs up, and then I'll make sure that everyone knows who's going. So that's sort of the way the board recommends for someone to attend on their behalf. So that is floating. The last item that I think we have on your iPads is on page 143. And this is information for the board. The National Interstate Council for State Boards of Cosmetology, NIC, is planning a trip in Mississippi for different regulatory boards. What I have before you is from our side. This is a PSI summit. It is the first one, I believe, that PSI will be doing, and it's very exciting. PSI, as you know, is our testing vendor. This summit will take place in April in Chicago, Illinois. Just received the agenda, and I hope to be able to communicate with them soon regarding us being able to attend. I was able to speak to Chairman Gillihan, and he'll give us more information on it because he's been participating in this as well. If the board would like me to attend, I will need a motion. This is for all the different executive directors. It looks very interesting. It's something, because of our funding and we being always really tight on money, I've never asked to go. I think this is a great opportunity to check in with what other states are going through, how they're handling exams. California will be there. As the board knows, we still have, I believe, every bit of 18 schools under investigation in California. So it's good for the different states to share that. And so, Chairman Gillihan, I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll need to make sure that if the board wants me to go, we have a motion.
Full disclosure on this, I've participated as an advisory committee member on this. It's just to get ideas from what we think the industry is looking at and needs. This program is exactly what it says. It's an executive director summit. We've invited executive directors from all over the state, or all over the country, to participate. This is going to be a working meeting to discuss how can the states come together in a way that is going to be more easily communicated across the borders. We had a case today where one state calls something a hairdresser and this one calls it something else. So there's issues like that that'll be discussed. There's going to be items that are going to deal with deregulation and delicensure across the country, what states can do to get out ahead of some of the many changes that are moving quickly down the rails. It's going to be a great meeting. I hope that we can approve Roxana to go and attend this. I think this is going to work towards greater cooperation from all the states and the simplification. You know, all the work we've done all these years to try to simplify the way things are done here to make it easier for the licensees and the legislature. So it's going to be focused on those type of issues. Hopefully we can bring a lot of good things back. So do you have any questions about the meeting? Roxana doesn't normally go to a lot of these because we just don't spend that money.
Correct.
I think it'd be great to have her there. I'd make a recommendation for us to approve her to go.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any other discussion or questions?
Needs to be careful crossing the streets.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have a roll call for
I
this.
mean that in the nicest way.
I know you do, and I welcome that. Trust me. So we have a motion by Ms. Patricia Parsons and a second by Ms. Kelly Barger for my attendance at this summit that PSI is putting together in Chicago, Illinois on April 21st and 22nd. By roll call, I will start with Ms. Kelly Barger.
Yes.
Ms. Anita Charlton.
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan.
Yes.
Ms. Yvette Granger.
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Parsons.
Yes.
Ms. Jane U. Ross.
Yeah.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield.
Yeah.
Ms. Amy Tangsley.
Yes.
And Ms. Susan Wicker.
Yes.
Thank you. That is everyone in attendance and participating telephonically. I appreciate that. And to add, I did have confirmation regarding the Massachusetts hairdresser license. That would be the closest equivalent to cosmetology. They don't have a separate one for that. So it looks like we have made someone very happy. She'll be able to practice without going back to school. And that is all that I have. If there are any other questions?
There's nothing else to come before the board. We need a motion to adjourn.
Contact their representatives.
Yes, contact your.
Contact your reps.
Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, vote.
We're going to do a quick vote. This is a motion to adjourn, and it is 11:55. And I want to thank everyone, the board that's here, those participating telephonically. This is the first time we've had to do roll call, so thank you for putting up with me. Ms. Kelly Barger? Ms. Anita Charlton? Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Yes.
Ms. Wybeck Granger? Yes. Ms. Patricia Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Janie Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
Ms. Amy Tanksley?
Yes.
Ms. Susan Wiffer?
Yes.
Thank you. All in agreement? We
We
are
are
adjourned.
adjourned.
Thank you. Yes. Before you leave, if I can take your IDs from you, unless you miraculously, yours worked, we're going to turn them in so that we can get them to work on the new security system. Thank you.